Welcome to today's deep dive. We are really excited you're here with us, whether you are, prepping for a high stakes meeting, maybe tracking the history of global tech titans, or honestly just navigating a professional setback of your own. You are in the exact right place.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a truly phenomenal timeline to look at today.
We really do. We're unpacking the core business mechanics of one of the most staggering corporate ascents in modern history. We are drawing from some fascinating excerpts from the text Jack Ma, The Defiance of Failure. And our mission today is to essentially deconstruct how a prolonged, brutal series of rejections was systematically weaponized to build Alibaba.
Right, an empire valued at over $400 billion.
Exactly.
And we're going to look past the standard biographical highlights. We want to examine the specific strategic framework he used, because this isn't just a biography. This is essentially a masterclass for anyone dealing with structural friction or persistent rejection in their own industry right now.
It's a roadmap.
It really is.
Yeah.
The source material fundamentally challenges the conventional wisdom about what it actually takes to scale an idea when you start with absolutely zero inherent advantages.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to set the scene for you listening right now. Try to picture this. We are looking at a 35-year-old man sitting alone in a cramped room. It's 1999.
He has no venture capital.
None. He lacks a background in computer science. He has no elite academic pedigree, zero institutional networking advantages. He has literally been turned down by every domestic employer and traditional bank he has approached. Even his own family doubted him.
Which makes sense, given his track record up to that point.
Right. Yet the man sitting in that room, who decided on that very night never to give up, made strategic decisions that eventually impacted the daily lives of over 1 billion people. It's just wild.
To understand the architecture of those decisions, we really have to examine the environment that forced him to develop such an unorthodox approach to problem solving. We start in 1964 in Hangzhou, China. He was born into an environment of severe economic scarcity. His parents were traditional musician storytellers, which was a profession that offered absolutely no financial safety net.
Money was incredibly tight. So we have a kid in a highly constrained economic environment. How does he break out of that local loop without money or, connections?
What's fascinating here is his early ability to spot and exploit macro trends before they mature.
Yeah.
In the 1970s, China began slowly opening its doors to Western tourism. Now, a lot of people in his city saw the influx of foreigners, but they viewed it merely as a localized shift. Jack Ma viewed it as an exploitable resource.
Because he realized that the currency of the future wasn't just capital, it was global communication. But how does a teenager in 1970s China actually acquire that currency? There's no formal education infrastructure for this.
He essentially manufactured his own immersion program. For 9 consecutive years, he woke up before dawn, rode his bicycle to a large hotel, which was the main hub for international visitors, and just waited.
9 straight years.
Every single morning. He offered foreign tourists free, extensive guided tours of the region, and the only payment he demanded was conversational English practice.
I mean, think about that daily grind. 9 years of daily, unpaid labor just to acquire a skill set. He mastered a language without a school, without spending a single penny. It wasn't a summer internship. It was nearly a decade of grinding out an education on the street.
And funnily enough, it was actually during one of these tours that a foreign tourist gave him the name Jack because his Chinese name was too difficult for them to pronounce.
Right.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it establishes his foundational operational model. Resourcefulness compensating for a lack of resources.
Exactly.
He bypassed the traditional gatekeepers of education entirely. He leveraged the only things he had, his time and his geographic proximity to tourists, to build a skill that would later become his primary competitive advantage.
But mastering English didn't just automatically unlock the system for him. The data on his academic performances, well, it's jarring. I want you to imagine facing this level of defeat.
It's heavy.
It is. We are talking about failing the primary school examinations twice, failing the middle school exams 3 times. He then took the national university entrance exams and failed 3 consecutive times.
And the math score.
Oh my goodness, the math score.
Yeah.
On his final attempt, out of a maximum possible score of 120 in mathematics, he scored a 1, a single point. He eventually managed to enroll in the Hangzhou Teachers Institute, which was widely considered the lowest ranked academic institution in his city.
Which highlights a really critical disconnect. The standardized testing environment rewarded rote memorization and highly structured thinking. That was an environment where he consistently underperformed.
I have to stop you there, though, because at a certain point, doesn't failing exams that many times and then racking up 30 consecutive job rejections after graduation indicate a fundamentally flawed approach? I mean, was he just unhireable?
It looks that way on paper.
He applied for a police officer role and got rejected. He applied to Harvard University 10 separate times
10 times.
and received 10 rejection letters. It borders on the absurd.
It does border on the absurd, but that is exactly the mechanism we need to analyze. If this happened to most people, they would just quit. They'd view a rejection as a terminal verdict on their competence.
Yeah, they'd pack it in.
But Jack Ma made a conscious choice to treat rejection as a volume game. He viewed every single no not as a defeat, but as a lesson. And this raises an important question for you, the listener. How do you process the word no in your own life?
That's a great question, and the KFC anecdote from the source material perfectly illustrates his volume game. When Kentucky Fried Chicken opened its first restaurant in his city, 24 people applied for entry-level jobs.
Management hired 23 of them.
23. Jack Ma was the statistical anomaly, the absolute only person deemed unqualified to work a fast food counter.
The psychological isolation of being the single rejected variable out of 24 applicants, that would force almost anyone to permanently downgrade their ambition.
Without a doubt.
But he was actively decoupling his personal identity from external validation. By surviving the humiliation of the KFC rejection, the Harvard rejections, the police force rejection, he built a localized immunity to failure.
He removed the fear of looking foolish.
Exactly. Which is the exact fear that prevents most entrepreneurs from taking asymmetrical risks.
So let's look at one of those asymmetrical risks. The timeline jumps to 1994. He is working as an English teacher, making a meager $12 a month. But that English fluency he built on his bicycle finally pays a dividend.
He travels to Seattle in the United States as a translator.
Right, and that is where he sees the internet for the very first time.
And rather than just passively browsing, he immediately tests the utility of the network.
Here is where it gets really interesting. He sits down at a terminal, and he searches for the word China and Chinese commerce.
And what does he find?
The result is a complete void. Absolutely nothing. There is no Chinese data, no Chinese commerce, no presence whatsoever. He identifies this massive vacuum in the emerging digital landscape, and it sparks the aha moment that changes millions of lives. He thinks to himself, what if I connect China to the internet?
Identifying the void is the easy part, though. The execution is where the friction lies. He returned to China with a dream, but he had no programming skills, no capital, and frankly, no idea how to actually build a website.
None. In 1995, he founded his first internet company. And it completely failed. He lost everything he had saved. The narrative that he just discovered the internet and instantly became a billionaire is entirely false. His first real foray into tech was a structural failure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, his failure didn't break him. It was just a prototype for his ultimate vision. He learned how to navigate Chinese bureaucracies, how to pitch digital real estate, and he understood the limitations of the existing infrastructure. He possessed nothing but the idea and absolute faith in it.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the turning point. We are back in 1999. He retreats, regroups, and gathers 18 friends in his tiny, cramped apartment.
This is the moment.
He pitches them a wild dream. He wants to build a company that would compete directly with the massive American corporate giants. He promises them it will require immense sacrifices, grueling hours, intense hardship. But he guarantees success if they just believe in the dream.
And together, they empty their bank accounts. They pool $60,000 of their personal savings to found Alibaba.
And that David versus Goliath framing became literal very quickly. They inevitably crossed paths with eBay, who was aggressively expanding into the Chinese market. The source shares this fantastic piece of dialogue. The head of eBay publicly mocked them. He basically said eBay is shark in the ocean, while Alibaba is just a small fish.
And Ma's response was a masterclass in positioning.
Legendary. He calmly said, maybe. But in the rivers of China, the dragon defeats the shark.
It wasn't just rhetoric. It was a highly sophisticated operational strategy. eBay applied their global playbook to China. They charged listing fees, focused on clean efficiency. They fought like a shark in the ocean. But Alibaba executed rapidly.
How so?
In 2003, Ma launched Taobao to directly attack eBay's consumer market. And in less than 2 years, It entirely defeated eBay and drove them out of the Chinese market
Driven out completely.
because he recognized the cultural blind spots. But the brilliant move came in 2004 when he launched Alipay. He brilliantly solved e-commerce's biggest hurdle, which was payment trust.
Right. China was a low-trust society regarding remote commerce at the time. Buyers wouldn't pay until they held the goods. Sellers wouldn't ship without cash. It was a standoff.
So Alipay functioned as an escrow system. It secured the funds until the buyer verified the item. He single-handedly manufactured trust in a trustless environment.
Which brings us to the ultimate climax. In 2014, Alibaba went public on the New York Stock Exchange in the largest initial public offering in financial market history.
Valued at over $25 billion.
The man who scored a 1 in math, the guy who was rejected by KFC, became the richest man in China. It is just an unbelievable trajectory.
It really is. But let's shift from the historical narrative to the practical application. We need to distill this playbook. There are 5 core lessons from the source text that you, the listener, can apply immediately to your own life.
Let's extract those. Strategy number 1, failure is the beginning, not the end.
Exactly. The data shows us he failed far more frequently than he succeeded. You must build a habit of learning from failure, seeing it as a teacher, not an enemy. You isolate the variables, adjust, and deploy again. You don't internalize the loss.
Strategy number 2, perseverance is a superpower. In a world where people quote incredibly quickly, the one who stays standing wins. It is not about being the smartest person in the room, it's about being the most resilient.
Which leads directly to lesson 3. Find the void in the market. Ma didn't invent the internet, and he didn't invent e-commerce. He just saw that China was missing from it.
So ask yourself right now, where is the empty space in your life or your industry? What is the glaring omission that everyone else accepts as normal?
Lesson 4. Serve others first. The text highlights that Alibaba wasn't built to make Ma rich on day one. It was engineered to help small Chinese merchants survive and thrive in a digital economy. Wealth was merely a byproduct of that service. If you solve a painful friction point for others, the monetization takes care of itself.
And finally, lesson 5, vision over capital. He had no money in that apartment, but his crystal clear, conviction-driven vision naturally attracted the right people, the resources, and the opportunities. If you wait for perfect funding, you'll never launch.
Absolutely true.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to address you directly. The next time you are staring down a professional dead end, or you feel the doors closing in your own life, remember the young boy on the bicycle.
Remember the man rejected 30 times.
Remember the visionary in the tiny apartment. The only difference between Jack Ma and anyone else isn't intellect, it isn't luck, and it certainly isn't money. It is this simple decision not to surrender. As Jack Ma said in the text, if you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the only real failure.
That is the bedrock of his success. But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to ponder long after this deep dive ends. The source details his 30 painful job rejections, right? Including the police force and KFC. But think about this. What if one of those places had said yes?
Oh, wow.
If KFC had hired him, he might have just settled for the comfort of a steady paycheck. He might have lived a completely average life. And the multi-billion-dollar Alibaba empire would never have existed. So what if the very rejection you are facing right now, the one that hurts the most and makes you want to quit, is actually the universe's way of protecting you from settling? What if it's forcing you towards your true purpose?
Viewing rejection as a protective mechanism against mediocrity, that completely changes how you evaluate a setback. So what opportunity is waiting for you? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and most importantly, keep going.